Hi there, and welcome to everybody joining us live from Ibrox in what will be our final Gantry pod of the season. I'm joined with Craig Dennett. How are you tonight, Craig?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Got some weird lighting going on in the background, which we're trying to move our heads to block out, but it's not quite working exactly how you want it to be. But I'm sure we'll persevere and we'll make it work.
Yeah, it's almost like an alien abduction. No comments, please, about that one. But right, we've got a few things to talk about tonight. We've got we've got obviously the game. Rangers drew 2-2, lost a silly last minute goal. We've got the announcement of Kieran Dowell, which came earlier on today, and obviously we will talk a lot about the 5 players that are departing. Obviously, we gave out the reaction to the lineup before the game, but Craig, I'd just like to talk about that first half in general. Maybe Rangers gave away a sloppy goal in that first half. I felt a lot of the play was very lethargic at times. Passes weren't finding their men. Again, I don't like singling people out, but I thought Glenn Kamara had a really poor performance that game or in that first half. What was your thoughts in the first half overall?
Yeah, I think the first half overall was poor. I think I don't think we got going at any point. The early goal kind of surprised us, I guess, and knocked us off any rhythm that I think we were trying to get into, albeit it was like 60 seconds into the game, so we aren't normally in a rhythm by that point anyway. I think we were so slow in the first half as well. Like, the passing was just, it was side to side. It wasn't penetrating at all. It was we were really struggling to create any chances of note, I think, and we were struggling at the back as well. We were giving the ball away in the midfield areas and letting guys like Ginelli, who has a lot of pace and can be quite skillful at times, run at us, and that was a real issue in the first half. Thankfully, second half we came out firing a bit more, and we saw the benefits of that. But the going in at half time, one each really flattered us, I think.
Before we go on to talk about that second half, I just want to touch on the goal that Todd Cantwell scored before it. I was got to mention the assist from Alfredo Morelos here, but it was one of the oddest pieces of defending I think I've ever seen in my life. I don't know the Hearts defender by name, but it came out sort of almost Phil Jones-esque, trying to header the ball along the ground. The way the game was going and was being refed, I genuinely thought that a foul was going to be given for that, but Todd Cantwell went through into the 18-yard box. I couldn't stop laughing because from our position in the gantry, he definitely looked up and saw Fashion Sakala on the far side and thought, nope, you're having one of those games. And again, from where we were at, I thought it was wide, but it was an excellent finish. And I think it was yourself that put the tweet out. We have a very special player on our hands in Todd Cantwell.
Yeah, we really do have a very special player on our hands with Todd Cantwell. I felt at times he was almost trying to do too much in that first half because no one else was really helping him or no one else was really offering anything, and he was trying to dribble past 3, 4, 5 players in the central midfield areas, and he was ultimately losing the ball at times, and everyone was getting a bit frustrated. He was also being kicked up and down the park, especially that first 15 minutes or so. It was clearly a tactic that Hearts were trying to do to disrupt him and to disrupt his flow and potentially try and get him booked. We know Michael Beale kind of spoke about that in his post-match press conference, saying it seems to be a bit of a narrative that's growing around Todd Cantwell from those outside the media, from those in the media outside of Rangers, and I think Michael Beale's comment was, we know where that narrative's coming from. I'll let you all jump to your own conclusions on that one, but the goal itself was a great finish. He kind of stumbled his way all the way up the park.
Yeah.
Like you say, probably generous giving Alfredo Morelos the assist with that one. I think the Hearts defender slips over, manages to get some part of his body to the ball. It rebounds off Cantwell, and Cantwell's then through on goal. Like you say, he looked up and saw Fashion Sakala and was like, I'm not even attempting to pass that ball to you at this moment in time. And he took it on himself, and he was so calm, so composed, picked his spot and off the inside of the post, and it was the lift that I think everyone in the stadium needed, because it was a first half that was so dire in terms of Rangers' performance that it could only go up the way from there, and having that wee boost before half time really helped it.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's exactly the words to describe it as a wee boost just before half time. We understand there was a bit of we're not entirely sure what on in the tunnel, but what we're hearing there was maybe a booking and maybe some squaring up and stuff like that. But I mean, a lot of people said this game means nothing for Rangers, but it certainly didn't seem that way, especially the way Morelos was reacting to the Hearts manager at times, which was fantastic to see. I must say, he's got to love a bit of that in Morelos' last game.
Yeah, you're not Stephen Naismith's biggest fan, are you?
No comment on that. I think that'll need to be for, I was going to say an after hours podcast, but I suppose it is at this time. Right, the next action point of the game, Rangers basically kicked off. There was a brilliant, I can't remember, was it Cantwell or Yilmaz, I think, just sort of hit a ball looking for Sakala down the left hand side.
Yilmaz.
Was it Yilmaz?
Who I thought had a really good game actually. Again, I thought he's really shown up well, and he's building in confidence, it seems, and he's actually much more comfortable with the ball at his feet than out of possession, I think, but he still picks up good positions when he's out of possession as well. He's got the pace to get back against some of these players. Ginelli ran at him a few times and he was able to match him stride for stride. He isn't scared to be physical. He's small in stature but willing to go up for every single header that's going and put in that challenge. And whether he's good enough to be the long-term starter for Rangers, jury's out, but would I start next season with Ridvan Yilmaz as our starting left back? I think at this stage I would.
I know, so you're not one of those ones that's hoping the rumours for a move to Galatasaray is true at the moment?
I can't see a boy that grew up playing for Besiktas going to Galatasaray, if I'm honest.
Yeah, and but yeah, for what it's worth, I agree with you. I know that, you know, my feelings on it, I felt the jury's still out on him perhaps a bit, but tonight I thought he played very, very well. There was maybe a couple of wayward crosses, but other than that, I think his final ball is getting better, and ultimately I think the team is still to get used to his style of playing. But I'm sure we'll come on to it later. The squad overhaul that will be happening this summer, I think we're going to have to get used to a lot of new players coming in. But just to continue where we left off there, Yilmaz played a fantastic ball. I think it was Sibbald maybe that got his head to it. But again, Fashion Sakala's in and around that area, just putting him off. Similar to the goal that Hadji scored against Hibs at the weekend as well. He's just making a nuisance of himself, wins the ball, and it's a good finish and past Sandler Clark, and he does the.
We call it a good finish, are we? He kind of just stumbled past the goalkeeper, and I'm not even sure that it wasn't our own goal at the end. It's one of those ones that because Fashion Sakala touched it towards the goal at some point in the build-up, then he gets it's on target, but it did look like a bit of an own goal in the end. Yeah, but
he took it. You've got to be there to score them, and he did the old Scott Arfield slide and salute, which we were maybe hoping for one of those from Scott Arfield himself, but it was nice to see. And I mean, as frustrating a figure as he is, and again, I thought he was terrible at times in that first half. Just couldn't get a hold of the ball, couldn't find a pass, and then he scores a goal for us to put us ahead again. I think that's 10 goals he scored this season.
Yeah, I think he's. I think one point you said, "How's he so bad, but how's he so good?" And that probably sums up every Rangers fan's thoughts on Fashion Sakala. I think going into next season, Michael Beale spoke about next season. Didn't speak about Fashion Sakala specifically, but I think next season I'd be very surprised if Fashion Sakala is any more than a bit part player for us, and I'd be very disappointed in our recruitment if he's any more than a bit part player, but I do expect him to be with us next season.
Yeah, and there was a bit of a change in formation in that second half. Again, that famed back three that we've been alluding to for quite a few games in the season now. Lundstrom dropped back there to accompany King and John Suter, who I thought... What?
Leon King went off at that point. Yeah, so it's John Lundstrom went back to partner Suter.
No, I'm talking about just after the goal. Not talking about the substitutions necessarily. Right, okay. I'm still talking about just that.
Called you out too early.
That's it, exactly, yeah. Just standard chat from being here at Ibrox with Craig. But yeah, there was a change of formation, and I thought that allowed us, gave us a really good platform to go and attack, and our fullbacks, Yilmaz especially, and Tav a bit more than that. They just exploited a bit more space, and Rangers really squandered quite a lot of good opportunities, which is the story of the season, isn't it?
Yeah, I think Yilmaz, we particularly noticed, had a lot of space down the left-hand side. I think less so James Tavernier. It was a bit later in the game, once Arfield was on the pitch, that James Tavernier started to get a bit more space down that right-hand side. But I think it was, again, Yilmaz impressed with his willingness to go forward and willingness to move into any space that was there. He put in a couple of good balls. He put in a couple of poor balls. I think that's that's one area he does need to improve on is his delivery into the box. But we created more than enough chances to score a goal. I think I tweeted at one point in the game saying that this might turn into 45 minutes of trying to get Alfredo Morelos a goal. It didn't quite turn into that one, but he definitely had a few chances as well, and he felt there was enough in there that Rangers should have been 3, maybe 4-1 up at stages of the second half.
Yeah, that's it. And obviously we had those substitutions that we were talking about earlier on there. Off comes Kamara, on come Arfield for him. Leon King goes off and Matondo comes on for him as well. Number one, I just want your thoughts on Kamara and Leon King and how you felt they both played tonight.
Kamara checked out a long time ago, and I think it was blatantly evident again tonight. He was just so slow on the ball. He was so ponderous. He was doing that thing where he takes the ball, but then he just goes straight back into the traffic where the ball came from. He was really struggling tonight. He's a real. It's a shame because he's a real shadow of the Glenn Kamara that we grew to love. I have no idea how to place a value on Glenn Kamara. As we head into the summer, it'll be interesting to see if we do receive any bids for him. It'll be interesting to see based on even tonight's performance. You'd think that was maybe a wee opportunity to put in a good performance and put yourself in the shot window, but it just wasn't happening at all. And I was quite surprised they lasted after half time, to be honest.
And Leon King?
Leon King, up and down. I see there's a comment there from Darren Knock saying that he thought Leon King played well. I thought he was okay. He got turned inside out by Josh Ginnelly quite early on, and I thought when he was faced up to another player, he struggled. But in general possession, in general play, I thought he was fine.
Yeah, and the only other thing about that spate of substitutions there was the reception that Scott Arfield got when he came on. That's just a special player. Again, we all touch on it, but when you were looking back at his highlights, the amount of important goals that he scored, but it fully deserved that reception coming on. It was emotional, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was really interesting actually. When you look at the 5 players that were announced yesterday as leaving the club, if you look at Ryan Kent, Alfredo Morelos, the contributions they've given to the club, Allan McGregor, especially the number of years of service he's done at the club, and the important saves and the title winning sides he's been a part of. And then you look at Filip Helander. Okay, he's fair enough. He's been injured for a great deal of it. And then you've got Scott Arfield, who for large parts of his Rangers career has been a super sub, for want of a better phrase. But he's the one that everyone has that affection for. He's the one that everyone has that emotional connection with the most. And it was really interesting seeing that tonight. He definitely got, maybe aside from Allan McGregor, but Allan McGregor definitely milked it less than Scott Arfield did. But Scott Arfield got probably the biggest ovation, both when he came on as a sub, pretty much any time he touched the football, and then afterwards as well. I think he was being interviewed by Sky Sports, which meant he was a little bit behind the rest of the team as they were doing their lap of honour, and it's safe to say he clapped every single fan in the stadium, and quite rightly so. Scott Arfield, I think, will be missed. I hope he does go somewhere that he will play football for the last year or two of his career, and then hopefully he's that player I'd quite happily see back at Rangers in a coaching form as well.
100%. Beale talked about it in his press conference that the amount of appearances and the experience that these guys, it'll be a huge loss to the club, but we'll pay him a proper tribute at the end of the pod there. So a couple more chances for Rangers towards the end of the game. Arfield himself had a chance when Sakala was clearly looking for him after he did his goal. He hit it straight at the goalkeeper, and it was a good save. The Morelos had another couple of good saves, forced a couple of good saves out of Xander Clark as well, hit the side netting as well. And then I actually thought that Matondo had quite a good run here. I'd just like to get your thoughts on Matondo and where you see him possibly fitting in next year. Do you think there is even a remote possibility that he could be, featuring a bit in the first team a bit more, or where do you see him featuring next year?
Yeah, before I answer, just apologise if you can hear the background noise of loads of kids running about up in the club deck, but hopefully it's not disrupting too much. In terms of where I see Matondo, again, I thought he had a few good runs tonight. I find it really difficult to judge Matondo and where he will sit next season. I don't think he'll be a starter. I think they'll probably be along the same lines of Fashion Sakala in terms of being that backup player who can come in for the occasional game. Although you do listen to players like Nico Raskin said the other week that he loves Ravi Matondo as a player, he loves Ravi Matondo as a person, and he's known him for a long time, since they were playing in Belgium and maybe even before that. And you look at players like that play with them, that are training with them week in, week out, day in, day out, and you're thinking, well, they must be seeing something. They must be seeing something that impresses them. And I think the last 4 games into the 5 games after the split, I think he's done much better than I thought he would. So that's impressed me enough to be willing to give him another chance in the next games. I hope that we are buying players. I hope that we are our strategy means that we don't need to take a risk on someone like Matondo, who has been inconsistent this season. Fair enough, he's been injured a bit as well, but I hope we don't have to take that risk because we've brought in someone who's nailed on to start in those positions and nailed on to start in each of the 3 front roles, because they're going to be so important next season.
Yeah, it will be very interesting to see the recruitment on those roles. Round about 80-minute mark, and there's some subs here. Raskin came off, Ryan Jack came on. Nico Raskin was awarded man of the match tonight. I'll be keen to get your thoughts on that. I think you and I both looked at each other. I thought he was okay tonight. You can see that, what he brings to the team. Really good at snapping into the challenges and just getting that ball in the transition forward really fast. But I'm not sure he turned in a man of the match performance tonight. But how do you feel he played today?
I thought he was okay. I thought he worked hard. I thought he tried to get in the ball when he could. He was playing. He was like Glenn Kamara was. He was pretty slow in the first half. I think we were slow in possession the whole time. But we're growing to understand what to expect from Nico Raskin, whether it's he's playing well or not, and that's that endeavour. It's being quite bullish. Just from a Frederick's just started right there. So if we go into darkness, that'll be why, and we'll try and sort that quickly. But I thought he did okay without shining. I was surprised that he got man of the match. I thought there were other players that played better. John Souttar, for example, was very good again. Todd Cantwell. I guess they can't give it to him every week, can they?
Yes.
Potentially. So I thought there were players in there that played better, but the sponsor gets to choose who the sponsor gets to choose.
That's it. And then the last thing to talk about in the game was that goal from Grant Kroll. I think that's just our season in microcosm there. Just a very, very sloppy goal, to not taking our chances in the second half and just conceding a very, very sloppy goal and right at the death of the game, which gives Hearts a bit of belief for their. They're looking for third spot.
I think they're fourth spot now. Yeah. I'm not going to criticise Allan McGregor tonight because it's his final appearance at Ibrox, but I think we faced 3 shots on target today. If I'm right, he made 1 really good save and we conceded 2 goals. So I think that says enough about that. But really, for that second goal, Ryan Jack was the one at fault. It was a comment there from Darren Knoxville highlighting that I have no idea why he tried to play a crossfield ball at that stage of the game, just punt it down the line, and it was literally going to be the last kick of the game. Just punt it down the line, and even if he gave away a throw in, give away a goal kick, whatever. He tried to be smart. He tried to play a cross-field pass. He got it completely wrong, and Hearts picked the ball up in the centre circle and just completely ran with it. It's frustrating from a number of angles, but it typifies exactly the type of goal we've been losing game in, game out this season, and exactly the type of thing we need to stop when we head into next season. Yeah,
that's that exactly. It's something people talked about in the press conference. Just not. I mean, the amount of chances we create during games is crazy. And I don't have the stats off the heart, but I know somebody posted them in the infamous This Is Ibrox WhatsApp group, and it is we should be well out of sight even before Hearts have scored that goal. But anyway, that's obviously unfortunately the last kick of the ball at Ibrox this season. Let's move on to something a bit more positive. Earlier on, a couple of hours before the game, it was announced that Kieran Dowell, one of the worst kept secrets in Scottish football history, I think, has agreed a pre-contract with Rangers. Obviously, in the press conference there, Beale was asked a question about him. He said he knows him from when Beale was working at Liverpool, although Dowell was over at Everton. He was a player that was always talked about. He described him as being similar to Tom Lawrence in Arfield, which I thought was a bit of an interesting comparison, given that he's going, and Beale said, this is the first of the players that's getting brought into the squad to re-energise, and I could not count the amount of times that the words energise and re-energise was used. We are very much moving into a new chapter next season for Rangers, and at the moment I'm very much looking forward to it. But what's your thoughts on us signing a midfielder like Kieran Dowell?
Before I come on to Kieran Dowell, I think after that Michael Beale press conference, and the number of times he said energy, energise, re-energise, I'd still expect us next season to be buzzing about the park for 90 plus minutes every single game, going by that. And if anyone doesn't do that, they'll be held to account. But I think basically with Kieran Dowell, I didn't really know much about. I've heard his name before. I'd heard him linked as being a good player. But outside of that, I've not seen him play in any sense. I didn't actually know what kind of midfielder he was, so it was really interesting hearing Michael Beale talk about it. He's in this sort of more forward-thinking Tom Lawrence, Scott Arfield mould. Hopefully, he works as hard as those two do, and that will fit really well into the way we want to play against teams. Hopefully, that higher press as well. But I'm looking forward to seeing him. I think he was. We saw him just as he made his way into the director's box today. He was a bit slighter than I thought he would be.
Yeah.
Like a player's in that position, you potentially expect him to be strong. But I made that judgment before with Todd Cantwell, and look how he's turned out. So, so I'm looking forward to seeing him. Hopefully, he's the first of many signings for Rangers this summer, and hopefully they can take us to the next level. Todd Cantwell spoke about him when we were here for the Aberdeen game.
Yep.
And Todd Cantwell was excited to have Kieran Dowell aboard, and was really been really impressed by him as a player when they were at Norwich together. So I think on that basis, he's one that we have to look forward to. But again, hopefully first of many.
Yeah, I think that's a really key important point there, that the two of them have played together. And as you said, it was fascinating watching the way Cantwell was talking about him, and I think it's clear to see that he's a guy that's really looking forward to having him here next season. I'm just going to, while we're on the subject of the press conference and Todd Cantwell, it was very, very interesting. We always asked a question about the sort of, how do you phrase it, the heat that's been on Cantwell for his antics, especially in that Hibs game, and he answered, "Well, we know where it's coming from." What was your thoughts on Beale saying that? It was, yeah.
I think it was a free hit for Beale, wasn't it? Really, when the question was asked, I don't think he had to mince his words. It's also at that stage of the season where you pretty much say what you want and get away with it. So I think for that one, Todd Cantwell has been highlighted a lot, especially for previous Old Firm games, especially for potentially certain tackles. I think a lot of Celtic fans were talking at one stage about the number of fouls that he gave away but didn't get booked, etc. So I think there's that narrative in terms of some of the qualities that we like about Todd Cantwell, and how aggressive he is, and how he doesn't give up, and how he's always chasing the ball. And there's certain things there that we like, and that was the side of Cantwell's game that I wasn't aware of before he arrived here. The side that I was aware of, and is thankfully he's continuing to show the qualities that he has on the ball, and his skill and his awareness and his positional awareness. All of that is working wonders, and he's such an important player in our team already. And you can see how big a player he will be going forward. I think it's interesting that every time Michael Beale speaks about Todd Cantwell, he says we need to enjoy him while he's in our league. Now that automatically says to me that Michael Beale doesn't expect Todd Cantwell to be here for a long time, because he expects interest to almost instantly be really high, if it's not high already. So I think that part of that stage is, we need to make the most of Todd Cantwell next season. That's kind of what I've been taking from the way Michael Beale's been speaking about it. But it's been really interesting hearing Michael Beale speak about how he's just going to keep pushing Todd Cantwell to give us more and more and more. He was valued at £30 million plus just a couple of seasons ago. You can see why if he gets to that level again, he won't be our player for very long. But I will definitely enjoy him for as long as he's here.
That's it, and he only cost 1.5 million as well, which is got to say it was a good bit of business at the time. Right, so it's the bit in the podcast I suppose we are not looking forward to getting to, but paying tribute to 5 guys who have unfortunately we won't see at Ibrox again. Filip Helander, Ryan Kent, Scotty Arfield, Alfredo Morelos and Allan McGregor. Let's just start off, Craig, and we'll talk about Filip Helander first. I think that he, on his day, was arguably the best defender at the club. I know that when you, well, I say you still have a bit of a footballing career. When you and I played football,
career would be generous.
Yeah, very generous. I agree with that. But I thought he was a fantastic defender. I thought he could really read the game well. Do you want to give us some of your sort of Filip Helander highlights and what you thought of him in his time at Rangers?
I mean, there probably so few games that he wasn't injured, really, I think, as well as part of the story. I think highlights when you think about Filip Helander, that first season he was here and the sort of steadiness he gave us at the back. I don't think we'd had that for a while. And given that he'd come from, was it Bologna he came from, if I remember right, in Serie A, and he had real promise and he looked really solid beside Goldson, and then it was injury after injury, and he would come back for a couple of games and he'd get injured again. But he was one of the players that really helped us in those early Old Firm games against Celtic when we started to get the better of them again, and he was a solid part of that team and the way that we played in that time. I guess his highlight for me has to be his goal against Celtic last season. I think that's the one that sticks in the mind, and it was a winning goal as well. So it goes with best wishes. It's a shame we didn't get to see more of them because we know that he was a really good player, but his body just let him down, and unfortunately, when that happens, there comes a time when he has to leave.
You could literally be talking about a number of Rangers players there, but that's another thing. The next one I want to talk about is Ryan Kent. How did you feel that Ryan Kent was, and how did you feel his time at Rangers was? I mean, he gave us some. He was a player for the big games and the big moments. I believe, he had a good few goals against Celtic. That one where he had that infamous celebration that wound them up, which was fantastic to see. For me, I always remember that goal away against Braga that he scored when he had the ball got launched up, he latched onto it and took it past and fired it in. Past in the near post. What have you made of Ryan Kent's time at Rangers?
Up and down. I don't think he ever became the player that we wanted him to be, or that a lot of fans probably believed that he would be. We wanted that player that scored against Braga, the player that scored against Red Star Belgrade away last year, the player that was creating assists during the Europa League run last season, and we just didn't see that often enough week to week in the SPFL, and I think that's a real disappointment. He was really, a lot of me does wonder if it's just the way teams set up against us meant that he didn't enjoy it because he didn't have enough space to run into. Whereas when it got to the European games, gave him a bit of space. He had a bit more composure in those times, and he was doing well, but he was nowhere near consistent enough. He didn't provide the goals and assist level that we needed from a player that cost us £7.5 million, and I think he's our most expensive player we've signed for quite a considerable length of time. And when we signed him, I thought, if he proves that he's £7.5 million worth, then he will absolutely fly. Some people questioned whether we should have let him go. There was obviously interest from Leeds. There was interest from a few other clubs at times, and I think we made the right decision hanging on to him because we knew what potential he had, and if he reached that potential, we would get more money. He never did reach that potential in last season. Pretty much after the Europa League final, he just kind of fell off a cliff almost in terms of the way he was playing under Gio at the start of this season. He was Kyle might be the most distracted man I've ever seen in my life. So anything that moves in Ibrox, Kyle's up like a meerkat.
I was wondering what that was.
I think that Ryan Kent this season has just been a shadow of himself. I don't think that I don't think that Ryan Kent has contributed enough this season. He moved into that deeper line role. Initially, we thought that would really help us, but it actually didn't. It took him further and further away from the goal. And I guess his defining moment this season was the goal against Celtic, which is exactly what we wanted from Ryan Kent all along. But it was all too few and far between.
Yeah, that's it. The next player who got a fantastic round of applause when he was substituted off was Alfredo Morelos. I mean, Ibrox was on its feet. He in his time, it's been up and down, and he's had that fiery feistiness in him. But he was a real hero for many Rangers supporters, especially young Rangers supporters. I mean, I think that might be the strip you see the name on it, the back of it the most is Alfredo Morelos. Tried his hardest to really, really get a goal tonight. It was odd after the game. Like he looked very disappointed, didn't he?
He just looked gutted.
Yeah, he did. He looked absolutely gutted. I think I don't know if that's it. Maybe finally hitting home. That I mean, I'll be stunned if he goes somewhere else where he gets a reception like he got tonight, and he's adored and loved by the fans like we do. But I mean, yeah, sum up his time at Rangers, and he will be remembered for. I mean, it's no mean feat being Rangers' all-time top European goal scorer.
Yeah, I think Alfredo Morelos in time will be looked back as he'll be in that. Am I going to put myself in this state? He might be in that conversation where is he a Rangers legend? Is he not? I think as the all-time European top goal scorer, he instantly puts himself in that category anyway. But considering we bought him for £1 million, I think it was of Jonathan Johansson's recommendation, wasn't it?
Yeah, Helsinki.
Yep, we bought it for £1 million. Look at the moments he's given us. Look at the European goals he's given us. The European nights he's got us through single-handedly. And in some ties, he's scored some fantastic goals at some really difficult places. He scored obviously the 2 goals at Feyenoord. His goal against Porto. I will always remember that night against Legia Warsaw in the 90th minute when the whole stand was shaking and Kyle was clinging onto his seat. Kyle broke his seat because he was clinging onto it so much because he thought the whole place was going to crumble. So yeah, Alfredo Morelos has given us so many great moments. I think he was in danger of having that the Chris Boyd-esque reputation in terms of not being able to score against Celtic. But he got that hoodoo off his back and he scored a couple, and he's I think I will always look back fondly on Alfredo Morelos, but I'm also of the opinion that now is the time for him to move on. Now is the time for us to realise actually we need more from Rangers' main centre forward. We need more goals. We need someone who's more clinical, someone who's more consistent, and hopefully that's what Michael Beale and the team will find this summer.
Yeah, I think that's a fair way to sum up his time at Rangers. Second last player I just want to touch and give tribute to is the magnificent Scotty Arfield. I know we sort of highlighted it earlier on, but I just could not believe the amount of times that he's stepped up and just scored. I mean, arguably all the players, he scored some of the most important goals. That goal against Celtic in the semi-final of the Scottish Cup last year really springs to mind. But I mean, you could see how much that meant to him, especially when he was doing his solo lap of honour. But he has been a real fantastic player for Rangers. The first signing of the Gerrard era, I believe, as well. And I think that his mentality, his attitude, his professionalism towards football at times really set us on the path to, getting back and winning the league. And I think his importance to the squad cannot ever be underappreciated, Craig.
Yeah, I think Scott Arfield was really taken to the heart of the fans really quickly after he signed. There was obviously that infamous 50-50 with Scott Brown and the Old Firm game that he won, and that was a real marker, I think, for us at that point in terms of being able to show that we aren't going to get run over the top of like we had done in the seasons previous to that. We were there for the fight, we were there to compete, and even if we didn't have players up to the level of quality that we needed at that stage, we were still going to show that desire to win those games, and he really epitomised that, and he was such an important player. And then he also scored the goal down at the Copeland end, and the Old Firm game. He scored so many memorable goals as well. to Aberdeen, for example, in stoppage time this season. I'm not sure how many other players would have done that for us. You mentioned the semi-final goal. That was a great finish. He was one of these players that popped up in the big moments, and that can't be said for a lot of players. And Scott Arfield will always be fondly remembered. And I do hope that he goes somewhere and is goes somewhere that he can play. But as I said earlier, I hope he comes back as a coach or something, because as a fan, I've really taken him to my heart. I guess it was obvious tonight from the reaction of other fans that they were the exact same, and he's one of these players that's always welcome back at Rangers.
Yeah, he's a standard setter. I think that's the best way to describe him. And finally, I don't know if I've left the best till last, but I've certainly a guy that it's crazy even thinking about it was in goals when you and I were at school together, which shows you how long he's been at Rangers. But I mean, Allan McGregor, you said you were unsure about using the word legend for Alfredo Morelos, but there's no question about it with Allan McGregor. He is a club legend. I mean, so many good moments. The Samaras penalty save, which ultimately resulted in us winning the league that year as well. The save against Werder Bremen. Again, we don't want to touch on this season too much, but he's been unreal. I have run out of superlatives to describe Allan McGregor. Yeah,
there's absolutely no doubt that Allan McGregor is a Rangers legend in almost every sense of the word. I think he look back at those saves, the Werder Bremen one, the Samaras one, even last season in the Europa League group stage against Sparta Prague, when we were 2-0 up, he made a couple of phenomenal saves, so it was still there last year. I think, sadly for Allan McGregor, this season was one step too far, but at the same time, I'm not entirely sure that Allan McGregor thought he would be playing as many games as he has this season. I think John McLaughlin was supposed to be our number one this season, and that absolutely didn't work early doors, and Allan McGregor was soon back between the sticks. I think, like I said, he was one step too far. I thought last season in some games it was almost a step too far, but he was still pulling out the bag in Europe, and that was keeping us going and keeping showing that he could play at one of the highest levels of European football. He was continuing to show that he could perform at that level, but I think just coming for crosses, and we're about to go into darkness. Coming for crosses, coming for crosses, staying on his line, not quite sweeping behind the defence. It was causing us issues. And then this year as well, we've had the shot percentage that we've actually conceded has just been it's been too many for too long, and it's a shame that it's ended the way it has, I think. But at the same time, he got an amazing ovation. He got the plaudits from the fans, as he very rightly deserves, and he's one that will absolutely be looked on as a legend. Yeah,
he was superb. Right, I think that's just about our cue to get out of here.
They're going to chuck us out.
Very nice time in there. But listen, thanks everybody for joining, watching, and commenting. As always, we absolutely love it when you guys get involved. We've been really, really privileged to do this season, to be giving you these live pods, live reactions from the press gantry. It's just been, from a personal point of view, I don't know if it's been for you, Craig, but it's been incredible, hasn't it?
It's been a dream come true, to be honest. You always think about how cool would it be to go and watch your team and be able to talk to the manager and talk to players and all that side of things. And actually, it's a privilege is the right word for it. And hopefully this isn't the last. Hopefully you'll see us back here next season. Plenty more Gantry pods, plenty more staying till Ibrox shuts pretty much next season, and hopefully in a happier season as well. So yeah.
That's it. The next pod will be myself doing a wee post-match after the St Mirren game at the weekend. Yeah. So we'll see how that goes in the last game of the season. I think I speak for everybody when I'm just looking forward to that game being out and over and done with. But listen, thanks everybody as always for watching, joining. Remember, just give us a wee like and subscribe if you haven't done already, and we'll see you again at the weekend.